Go live. Here we go.
Laura, you're looking exceptionally good tonight.
And we are live. Ladies and gentlemen.
You're looking good.
And Laura is looking good. Look at that.
Welcome. I wouldn't know.
To be here.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Cosmographia Live, the Randall Carlson podcast. I think Randall has some things to talk about this evening.
No, I have nothing to talk about this evening. Right?
Oh, okay.
I have nothing.
It's going to be nothing but...
You're all out?
No. Well, we're going to talk about nothing. What is the meaning of nothing?
Ooh.
Are you ready, Russ, to talk about
for me.
The deeper meaning of nothing?
Are we going in like nihilism or something?
I'm just thinking that we're going to need to get rather abstract.
Okay.
And get out there on the fringe of the fringe, given, well, your brother.
What? This is normal.
I don't know if you've noticed your brother, Russ.
Yeah.
But, well, on the break, I want you to just look over there and notice your brother. This is your younger brother, Russ.
I don't see a problem. Randall,
I don't see anything.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Out of place here.
That's just...
It's Thursday.
Right, it's not a usual day that we do this. Yeah, that's different. Other than that.
Now, Russ, could you imagine my younger brother?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, the first time I looked over there, I was like, Rowan?
Well, I think, what do I think? Geez, I'm so befuddled right now.
Should I take off the costume?
No, don't. I'll get used to it. Let me just have a moment here. I need a moment. I'll get adjusted and it'll be okay. We'll be able to move forward.
Maybe you're going to need it, Kyle.
I might need it.
Yeah.
Maybe we all should have came more prepared.
But I don't want to ruin your flow, man.
Nah, man. Nah, you won't. You're cool, man. You're cool. It's all right. I was just giving you a hard time. It's cool. And in fact, really, I almost think that perhaps that could be a permanent look for you.
Well, it is Thursday.
That's what we're saying. This is normal.
Oh, for Thursday.
Yeah.
For Thursday, because normally we record on Monday.
Yeah, he's not.
Okay,
in
so I don't get to see this under normal circumstances.
Right. He's not in costume. This is just Thursday.
This is Thursday. Yeah. Okay, it all makes sense to me now. Okay. What happens if we record, like, say, on Friday?
Oof. Well,
okay. We won't go there.
We might not want to contemplate that. Yeah. Let's just.
I think not.
Just leave that on the table.
Yeah.
Move away from that.
So what should we be talking about? There are things to talk about. And I know people have questions. And there's a possibility we'll have some answers. It's not, of course, there's no promises. But there's some interesting things to talk about. A couple of things, I'm just kind of anxious to talk a little bit about the Hopewell impact. I haven't had a chance to fully digest what's going on there with that. I thought maybe we could take a few minutes to see what's going on there. Because, we are thinking about perhaps even in 2023, a Hopewell monumental earthworks tour. So
excellent.
Now here's this new evidence. And of course, in all of our talks and discussions, we've been regularly pointing out the perhaps very suggestive connection there with cosmic impacts and monumental earthworks by the Serpent Mound structure. I mean, how many times have I called attention to the fact that the serpent effigy at Serpent Mound is situated on the rim of an astrobleem? Coincidence? Just happened to pick that place? Maybe. We've seen, when we look at some of the aerial photographs, that the serpent effigy, in a way, almost mimics the landscape. The landscape itself, the rim there, is almost serpentine in its configuration. So anyways, I thought that might be something to look at.
Definitely.
I could actually Let's see.
So yeah, I'll just, while Randall's pulling that up, I'll just let people know we are going to take questions later on in the show. But so you can start posting them now, but keep in mind we do them in chronological order. So, once Randall's done with the presentation he's going to give tonight, or it's not really a presentation, he's going to talk about some articles and some papers that he wants to discuss. But once we're done with that, we can start tackling the questions. Meanwhile, we'll be keeping track. And thanks to everybody who's already donating. Thank you, guys.
So this paper appeared in the journal Nature, which of course is very conservative. In fact, a little too politically correct for my taste, but you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And they have some editors on the staff apparently who are willing to go a little bit out on the limb, but this is a good one. And this is Tankersley was co-author of this paper, and he's a member of the Comet research team. George Howard knows him. The title of the paper is The Hopewell Airburst Event, and it's given as 1,699 to between 1699 and 1567 years ago. So, which would be about 250 to somewhere between 252 and 383 BC. Back up. AD or CE, which means Common Era, which is the Common Era. So this would have been in the early days of, just about the very same time that Christianity was becoming an established religion. The beginning of the decline of the Roman Empire. But here's what it says. Meteorites, iron and silicon-rich microspherules, positive iridium and platinum anomalies, and burned charcoal-rich Hopewell habitation surfaces demonstrate that a cosmic airburst event occurred over the Ohio River Valley during the late Holocene. A comet-shaped earthwork was constructed near the airburst epicenter. 29 radiocarbon ages established that the event occurred between 252 and 383 CE, or as many people would know, AD, a time when, get this, 69 near-Earth comets were documented. Wow. While Hopewell people survived the catastrophic event, it likely contributed to their cultural decline. The Hopewell airburst event expands our understanding of the frequency and impact of cataclysmic cosmic events on complex human societies. Yeah, so it's a very interesting article, and people can actually find it downloadable on Google Scholar. If you go there, if you're interested in reading it, Tankersley put his name in, or just put in the Hopewell airburst event. You get a link to a PDF. You can download it, read the whole thing. There's some great graphics in it. And I think this will now be incorporated into our thinking about the Earthworks tour. Of course, it'll have to be. In fact, yes, the Milford Earthworks. Yeah, okay, I see this. I gotta share this. So let me
let's see it.
Yeah, let me open it. Let me enlarge it. The Milford Earthworks. Okay. Oh yeah, check this out. I'm gonna go back to here. Share. There we go. The comet-shaped Milford Earthwork. Russ, get that person sitting next to you to look up Milford Earthwork. Now, this looks like it's probably, the illustration here is probably from Squire. Oh, yeah, right up here. You can see it. Davis. So this is part of the Squire and Davis survey that they've got here. So
we actually have that book.
What?
We have the book up there. Should I look it up in the book?
I have the book. Do you have the book? Look it up in the book. The Squire and Davis book.
Yeah.
What was it? The centennial or the 150th? Let's see. They did a reprint of it. That's it. That's the one I got. That is a great book.
Fantastic book.
Ancient Monuments of the. Yeah. That's awesome. So Milford earthwork, it might be in there. But anyways, check this out. Wouldn't it be awesome if this comet effigy was still there? Yeah. So, right down here in the caption, E.G. Squire and E.H. Davis's 1848 Ancient Monuments of the Mississippi Valley, comprising the results of extensive original surveys and explorations, published by the Smithsonian Institute. That may be still in print. See what else we got here. Let me go back up. All right, so there it shows us where the Turner site, Mound View Park, just immediately east of Cincinnati. Oh, maximum microspherules and micrometers, microns. Let's see.
Well, it's not
Let's see.
in the index, but
Not in the index, huh?
I can look it up on the Googs.
Yeah, consult the book of knowledge.
I shall.
All right. Okay, now here we're getting interesting. Look at this. Scanning electron micrographs of iron and silica-rich microspherules from the Turner Earthworks and Village site, Hamilton County, Ohio. So there we go. Look at this. Look at these. These are familiar. We've seen a lot of things like this associated with the Younger Dryas boundary sites.
Yeah.
Yeah. Microspherules. This is the fingerprints of cosmic catastrophe. You don't really see them with the naked eye. You got to get down with some scanning electron microscopy is what's going on here. Let's see what else we got here. Palisite meteorites from the Turner Village site. Palisites excavated from the Turner Village site in 1882 by Dr. Charles Lewis Metz. Okay, and so B is your energy dispersive X-ray spectroscopy, or EDS, of recently discovered palisites. So this is energy dispersive X-ray spectroscopy is just basically a way of understanding the composition of something of a substance that you're looking at. C and D are scanning electron micrographs of recently excavated palisites from the Hopewell habitation surface. So what you've got here is you've got this set of different interlocking proxies, which may be able to be explained away when isolated. But when you take the whole suite of features, it doesn't leave much alternate explanation, but cosmic impact. So here we go. The location, stratigraphy, and sediment sample sites of the Junction earthworks and mounds, Ross County. So those are still visible on the ground. Look at that. So, okay, so here's the sample sites. Yeah, check this out. Here you can see that, in a lot of these areas, the ancient earthworks have been built over. And yet sometimes there's still traces of them that can be seen. And sometimes even interestingly, the names will end up on streets and things that indicate that there might have been something there. All right, so there we go. The Krasnoski earthworks, the location, stratigraphy, and sediment sample sites are the white circles over here. Krasnoski. So they're finding them in multiple earthworks, apparently. I think we should jump down here to the conclusions and see what their conclusions are. Conclusion: the Hopewell Comet airburst event adds to our growing body of knowledge of catastrophic cosmic events, which led to cultural downturns in ancient, complex, sedentary, and agricultural-based societies. Multiple independent comet airburst event proxies have been found on 11 Hopewell archaeological sites in the Ohio River Valley, which have typological and calibrated radiocarbon age ranges of 1,699 to 1,567 years before present, This time period coincides with historically documented near-Earth comets and occurs immediately prior to the cultural downturn of the Hopewell. The airburst event may have created mass confusion, resulting in an upheaval of the social interaction sphere. Now it gets interesting here. Near-Earth comets have been increasing through time, up to 2 per year, and those with an orbital period of approximately 10,000 years may remain within a planetary system between 5,000 and 15,000 years. Thus, we expect to find more examples of such events in the archaeological record. The cultural impact and geographic extent of ancient cosmic airburst events can only be evaluated and interpreted through interdisciplinary investigations that include chronostratigraphy, petrography, and geochemical analysis. Yep. These methods, if carried out rigorously, will provide a greater understanding of ancient catastrophic cosmic airburst events, their impacts on complex human societies, and their frequency, not only in the Western Hemisphere, but elsewhere in the world. And isn't that ultimately the most important question out of this, the frequency of such events?
Yes.
This is devastation over a pretty big area. If it includes and encompasses 11 different archaeological sites, I would have to dive back into, I'm sure, probably somewhere in the body of the paper itself, or just by looking at the maps here, we could calculate a rough idea of the actual number of square miles that were encompassed in this. I mean, we know, for example, that the Tunguska event devastated about what? What was the Tunguska event? 800 square miles?
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that. Yeah, I mean, it was an enormous area.
Yeah.
So I guess a Tunguska size event could possibly encompass 11 earthwork sites, but I would have to go. This will be a fun little project. I'll probably do it. Get on the maps and map this out, and figure out how big of an area it is, and compare it to some of the other known events.
Yeah, 830 square miles.
830 square miles. Wow. Now, yes, because I actually calculated at one time. I took a map of Atlanta and I calculated 285, which is the perimeter highway, the perimeter interstate that a lot of the big urban areas have. They'll have a circular interstate around it, right?
Yes.
So I calculated the area inside the 285 perimeter of Atlanta, and it was very, very close to the airburst area of Tunguska. So I kind of have used that as a reference. It's also, I did several other cities, the Twin Cities, Washington, D.C., and I think I did L.A. when I went out for one of the Rogan shows, and created a graphic showing the area, the regional area of devastation from Tunguska, and then scaled it to the map and then juxtaposed it on there, just to kind of get a feel for how much we're talking about. And then, of course, that estimated power of the Tunguska explosion is about 15 megatons, which is roughly the size of the largest hydrogen bombs that America tested back in the day, and was like the largest bomb in the American arsenal. 15 megatons, which thankfully never got used. So, there's a burned charcoal-rich Hopewell habitation stratum at the Turner site. And you find at that layer meteorites, the highest levels of platinum and iridium. So you've got the iridium, the platinum, the micrometeorites, all in an area with extensive burned charcoal. So, fire and water have no mercy.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, ekperusis and cataclysmos, destruction of the world by fire and destruction of the world by water. And it turns out those aren't such fanciful superstitions after all.
I guess not.
Apparently not.
Apparently not. Did you want to discuss the upcoming Halloween thing real quick? And then we'll take some
since
questions?
We're talking about cosmic catastrophes,
yeah,
it would only make sense that we would talk about the Festival of the Dead, Feast of the Ancestors live stream that we're going to do on Sunday. Yeah, I mean, we're going to dive into the deep cosmic origins of Halloween and related celebrations that occur at the pretty much precise same time of the year around the world, both currently and way back into early history. The Feast of the Dead, which was honoring of course, one's immediate dead. And this is the origin of All Souls Day, All Saints Day. Here you have All Hallows Eve, right? 3 days, All Hallows Eve, which is the 31st. The eve is the evening. And then you have All Saints, which is November 1st, and All Souls, which is November 2nd. So basically, All Saints is you're supposed to honor the saints, which, if you're not Catholic, I would interpret that as being, because this goes beyond Catholicism. I mean, these kinds of ceremonies and observances rather would be the better term, ceremonies, et cetera, are much more universal, but they have been adopted by some groups specifically, maybe to a greater extent than another group. And of course, the Roman Catholic Church took on pretty much all of the old ancient pagan traditions and adapted them to the new, Christian dogmas and Christian faith. So, but still within the trappings of Catholicism, the pagan elements are still there. If you peel back a couple of outer layers of the onion, there they are. But the Festival of the Dead was observed all over the ancient world, and it was usually about the same time of year, and it was about the time that the Pleiades culminated at midnight, because the Pleiades, for many ancient was the calibrator of many ancient calendars. The rising and culmination of the Pleiades were often hinged, or the ancient calendars were often hinged to the rising and culmination of the Pleiades, which is obvious because it's a very obvious little star cluster, and it's because it's very defined within space, and because it's so close to the plane of the ecliptic, all of those things make it suitable as a marker to hinge a calendar to. But it goes much deeper than that, and it gets us right into the ideas of cosmic catastrophism. So that's what's underlying this universal tradition. So All Saints Day, the way I interpret it is, hey, yeah, let's have a day to honor all of those people that we hold in high esteem. I mean, I could think of a name people, might not be the same as the Roman Catholic Church, but it would be all the people that I hold in high esteem. Let's say, for example, I hold, regardless of the fact that he may not have been a perfect individual by our own modern standards, I hold Thomas Jefferson in high esteem, okay? The man who wrote the document, the Declaration of Independence, I hold that guy in high esteem. So I set forward that guy as an example of somebody in history that I hold in high esteem. And if we come down to more recent times, yes, I could make a list of a dozen people that I hold in very high esteem. And so, okay, so I'm going to do is to take All Saints Day, and I'm going to honor in my mind those people. Now, the second day, All Souls Day, is where you honor your own dead, the people, your immediate ancestors, the people that were in your life that are now gone, and their ancestors. It's very much about trying to maintain some cultural sense of continuity, both cultural and individual, with one's line of ancestors as much as possible. However, as we're going to find out, as far as the feast of the Festival of the Dead is concerned, it also encompasses a much bigger and broader spectrum than just one's own immediate family or one's own immediate cultural predecessors, because it goes also to the level of the human species as a whole on Earth. And it's also a time, and was literally a time in many of the ancient observances, to honor those who died in the great cataclysmic events, like honoring those who died in the deluge, for example, in the Christianized version of it, in the biblical flood. So that was a component of it. So it's not only about, recognition of the immediate dead, your own predecessors. It's also when humanity itself died and almost went extinct. So that's the other meaning that we're going to pull out of the Halloween and Festival of the Dead, and where our Halloween, which of course goes back primarily to the Celts, our Northern European version of Halloween. But when you look at some of the other ancient versions from all over the world, you get this really rich tapestry of perspectives on this ultimate core events that motivated this in the first place. And the connection of, for example, the Pleiades with the legends of the Great Flood. There are very definite connections there. And then, of course, the role that the Taurid meteor shower now plays in understanding cosmic events, now scientifically confirmed cosmic events. So there's a lot to unpack there. So we're going to do a live stream on Sunday night dedicated to we're going to use our own modern Halloween celebration to take that dive back into ancient catastrophism and look at the amazing ways that these memories of these events have come down to us through history, through the stories, the songs, the poetry, the legends, the mythology, the folklore, and so on. The tales we even tell children.
Just to get a little more detail on that, Randall. So it's $18. You're shooting for 2.5 hours, but I think that's probably the minimum it'll go, and it'll be available ongoing. But you'll have to start a free HowTube account to access it, and then you can watch it again, and bring your friends over and watch it with them too.
You can watch it, and I do expect people to watch it hundreds of times.
Hundreds
of times.
Links are in the notes for this live stream, and Brad has also been posting them in the chat.
Yeah, it looks like the one in the top of the description has got a huge URL to it, so they whatever. But yeah, I put the short one in there, and then the other promo videos that we did. If you didn't see those, you can check those out, and it's always the top one on the description right below the video.
Laura, you're gonna put these hats in the merch store too?
Yeah, people are asking where do they get?
Oh yeah, that can be arranged.
This Cosmographia hat.
That could be arranged. We got to get the logo on there, but then we're good to go.
Maybe damaged in shipping.
I was looking at thinking I really like it, but there's something missing.
Right.
There's just some I couldn't quite put my finger on, but that's what it is. That's what it is.
I thought we were talking about the moon today, but
it was UFOs, right? That's why you wore the tinfoil.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to be sure.
Well, NASA has commissioned a 16-person team to spend the next 9 or so months looking into the whole UFO thing. And the leader, Daniel Evans, who's the orchestrator of the 16, has publicly said it's all going to be transparent and open to the public. And
sure.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he said it at least gives us some leverage to hold their feet to the fire. But
right.
I'm gonna tune in, see what they come up with.
Sure. Yeah.
And see if they get it figured out. I bet they won't.
I doubt it. Yeah.
No, I doubt it.
All right, let's tackle some questions and comments here.
Oh, okay.
W. Decker, $20 says, I sincerely appreciate all the effort that Randall and the entire team put into each of these podcasts. Thank you all. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
T. Gear, $20 says, what is the mysterious handbag seen in ancient carvings all around the world?
Oh, I've been afraid somebody's going to ask me that question. What's his name?
T. Gear, I think.
T. Okay. Yeah. I probably would like to know the answer to that question as much as T. Gear does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I always like the fact that, maybe that's where he carries his shrooms.
Right.
I like that one. I could see using a handbag to carry my shrooms around in.
That's what Graham says, right? That's where they keep their stash.
Yeah, they keep their stash. Yeah. Now, what else? I don't know, but you know what? It might be something I've had some suspicions lately that I may stumble upon something in the near future that would lead me to have at least a reasonable idea of what the purpose of that is. I have this, this probably you figured out. I have a reluctance to try to, put stuff out there prematurely.
Sure.
I don't like to, I like to speculate, but up to a point. I mean, I don't like to put things out there that sound the term half-baked can usually be considered a pejorative term, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. Like if I say that, you've got some half-baked ideas, Russ, about such and such, well,
You'd be absolutely right.
yeah, right. That's what I mean. That's why I would be absolutely. But see, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
Because really it just means, okay, well, you just needed to leave it in the oven longer so it can finish baking.
Sure.
See? So that's one of the implications. So I'm reluctant to put out a lot of half-baked ideas. And I mean, every now and then you do inevitably, sometimes without realizing it, but I try to avoid that. So the handbags, anything I would say would be mere speculation, but it is certainly something I've been curious about. And I suspect it's also important. Whatever it is, it's not just some frivolous thing. It's important to understanding the whole meaning of those effigies.
Yeah.
So what the hell is that bag they're carrying? We'll circle back to that. Kind of if T. Gear wants to, he can kind of bring it up again down the road a little bit.
Okay.
And
I also thought, because they're also holding people call it the pine cone, but also maybe a bunch of grapes, right? So it's like, is it fruit and water?
Yeah.
Fruit of knowledge, water of life. The bag's it's a bucket.
Yeah, could be a bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen that. So that's interesting. A bucket.
Yeah.
So, the pine cone thing, I'm leaning in that direction because of the pineal gland.
The
pine cone.
Sure.
Do your little etymological research there. It's some interesting connections.
Yeah.
And I've got some really interesting etymological research and linguistic stuff I'm bringing into the Halloween thing. The Halloween, the feast, the Festival of the Dead program Sunday.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Another donation from Jay, $10. No comment. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Jay.
Jedediah, $20, says, have you ever considered the similarities between Zep Tepi from the Atlantean story and Gobekli Tepe? Or is this a complete coincidence that the words are damn near the same? Love the show.
Well, being somebody who's interested in
Tepe.
word origins, we should try to find that out. That's a good question. Because I am one who do believe that.
Yeah, it's Egyptian.
No,
Right.
So what is the connection then between the Egyptian language and the Turkish language? And I bet we could right now open, I'm going to look this up. Zep Tepe. Yes.
A tepe,
Tepe.
I think the tepe in the Turkish language just means mounder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like a hill.
Yeah.
Yes, the first time, a remote epoch, prior, I like this, prior to ancient Egypt. A place of awakening and a place of forgetfulness. It is, remember what Merlin said, it is the doom of men, they forget. A mythological golden age when the gods lived amongst humanity. Well, now Tepe, what I'm looking for, though, is the etymology of the term.
Somebody just threw in that in Egyptian it means time.
Yeah, that would first.
Yeah,
first time. Because it means literally first time.
First time,
yeah.
So let's say that Tepe means time. Now let's apply that to Gobekli Tepe. Does Tepe mean the same thing in Turkish?
I think it means mound or hill.
Mound
There's a
or
bunch
hill.
of tepes there, and they're
They're mounds.
They're mounds. Yeah.
And I thought Gobekli Tepe meant Potbelly Hill or
Yeah.
Naval Hill or something like
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Potbelly Hill, I think.
It is interesting that they sound very similar, though.
Yeah. I mean, at least in the English rendering, they're spelled different.
Right.
Right.
When would it have been given the name Gobekli Tepe?
Yeah, and who named it?
Yeah, and that's not the name that.
Because it wasn't a hill originally.
Right. That's a modern.
Gobekli Tepe, hill with a navel. Yeah, and you were right. Whoever you are,
Tinfoil guy.
tinfoil guy. Yeah, tinfoil guy was right. Potbelly Hill. Hill with a navel. Now I like that. Interesting. That's interesting. Hill with a navel. So that's like kind of coincides with the concept of Omphalos, a
Yeah.
point of emergence, a point of growth, a center of growth. A navel. Interesting. Gobekli Tepe Hill with a navel. So who named it? Okay, it's northeast of
What part is the navel?
Sanliurfa, an ancient city in southeastern Turkey, once named Edessa and known as the city of the prophets. While this nearby city has a rich religious history, just how far back religion stretched in this region was unknown until the discovery of Gobekli Tepe, the oldest man-made place of worship, it says, yet discovered, dating back to 10,000 years BCE, which would be before Common Era. So that makes it 12,000 years old, basically. To say 10,000 BC, right? So archaeologists and historians will typically use BC, right, which is year zero. When we say it's 2022, right, and about to be 2023, we're talking about 2023 years since year zero. So BC means before the Common Era, and the Common Era has now been going 2023 almost years.
Yeah. And I think those dates are from like the bottom of the fill.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the minimum age that they can be, but not the maximum.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I thought it was 17.
17 what?
17,000 years old.
I've never heard that.
First time I heard about it, that was the number.
Well,
Then it went back to 14, and now it sounds like 12.
but I think from what I've heard, they think it maybe have lasted for a long time. So there's a bunch of different mounds. They've only excavated a tiny fraction, and the main part with the vulture stone and all that kind of stuff has been dated roughly around 12,000. But they think that there's much older ones.
And clearly, we don't know what those people called it. So,
Right.
I don't know what connection there would be.
Right. I don't either.
Still, interesting question.
Yeah, very much so.
Okay, Jonathan Frost, $20 says, "Thank you. I appreciate you." Well, thank you, Jonathan.
Well, we appreciate you, Jonathan.
Yes.
For sure.
Okay, another one from W. Decker. Another $20 says, "I'm impressed by what Randall has shared about the Masons, and I just learned that my grandfather was a Mason. Does Randall have advice about how I might learn more about following in my grandfather's footsteps? Thank you."
Yeah, that's great. Your grandfather, that's I'm wondering if Decker knew his grandfather personally. And if you knew what lodge he belonged to. Now, see, that would be, because that would kind of be like a legacy lodge. If you could find out what lodge he went to, and if you were thinking about becoming a Mason, if it was, accessible to you to petition the same lodge. I mean, I think that would be awesome. I would love to have been a member of a lodge that my grandfather was a member of, but it's pretty easy. What you need to do is, first of all, whether you want to know whether in your circle of acquaintances you have any Masons that you know, and you might. I mean, I don't know what you do for a living, if you work with a lot of people, or, a lot of times you might be working and somebody at your, in your office or in the plant you're working in or wherever it is might be a Mason.
He says he knows the lodge. He does know the lodge.
He knows the lodge.
Yeah.
Okay. What area is he in, or what city? I'm just. Now, he doesn't have to disclose that.
If he says it, don't dox yourself, buddy.
No, I don't mean that. I mean, if they wanted to find him, they'd have to go search the whole city, right?
Oh, they can do that.
Well,
you
okay.
You see this tinfoil? You're gonna need it.
Yeah. Well, if you could get a get up like that guy there, the tinfoil, tinfoil guy has. I don't know if
they may not be able to find you. Yeah. So
I don't know if that would help you get into the lodge or
not. Next question from Andrew, $20, says, last slide of your Atlantis presentation on HowTube was on Canary Island mitochondria DNA, but you stopped before explaining. Shows material DNA unique to them. Can you go over it? Is this related to the Solutrean hypothesis?
I think it could be. But yeah, I got to circle back to that. There's some interesting information, very suggestive information, but to be honest, I have to confess that the technical details of the genetic sequencing is something I'm still wrapping my head around. So again, like I said earlier, I'm going to give myself an out. Say I'm not going to talk about it quite yet because there's some more things I need to know. But let me say this: it does look like, I mean, a lot of that was stuff I was seeing, and then it turned out that Graham Hancock gave really almost a better explanation than I would have been able to do in America Before. So yeah, let me say this: there's I think a lot of work that needs to be done there, and I think that maybe we could be possibly, just speculatively, of course, hypothesize that Atlantis could have been a genetic dispersal hub, and possibly some of the genetic links we might see between, the so-called New World and the so-called Old World might have that connection. I am not qualified yet. Now, in fact, I'll never be qualified enough to give a really in-depth dissertation on the genetic connections.
Right.
I will be qualified enough, though, to have an opinion on the matter.
Sure.
Because you don't need to. You can learn enough to have an opinion on something without knowing every single detail, intricate detail. Otherwise, you might as well give up before you even get started.
Right. Then if you have to know every detail, nobody can have an opinion.
Yeah, then nobody can have an opinion.
Yeah.
Brad, you look like your mind is blown. Like,
yeah, it's exploding.
It's exploding right now.
It is. Well, you'll notice that cap he's wearing, it seems to be undulating.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
I think it's
kind of a
not the cap, it's the skull underneath that's undulating.
His whole body is very wraith-like. He's just yeah.
You also look dangerous.
Yeah, he does. Okay, Monkey Face You gives $10. It says, Randall, do the Nebraska sandhills have anything to do with the Younger Dryas mega floods?
Oh, I would think so. I certainly would think they had to do with the whole, somewhere within that glacial meltdown. Now, if we're looking at the glacial meltdown, one of the things I was talking about last night on, I did that podcast with Mind Escape with Mike and Maurice, and we were talking about.
Shout out to Mike and Maurice.
Yeah, shout out to Mike and Maurice. I had fun with those guys. I had to give them a hard time. They can take it. So
of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
Did
you give out any attaboys?
I didn't. I didn't. Next time I will have to. What I'll have to do is I'll unleash. I'll just unleash on them and see how they respond, and if they hold up under a withering assault.
Sorry,
no, I tell you, I treated them a little more gently than I treat you guys.
It's that's understandable.
Yeah, it is.
You've heard the old saying, familiarity breeds contempt. You've heard that, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
But anyway,
what's the well, let's see, there's the converse of that. Fondness makes the heart grow fonder.
Yeah.
Isn't that it? Wait a minute.
Absence.
Absence.
Yeah.
Absence. That's what I'm saying.
But it's
Trying
also
to say.
correct that fondness makes the heart grow fonder. I mean, that's technically true.
Yes, it does. It may be a little redundant, but it's still true.
Right.
Absence or fondness makes absence. Wait, where was
Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, see, we have the best of all possible worlds here. All I have to do is see you guys on a little thumbnail on my computer screen once a week. So
yeah, that's right.
I mean, if I had to see you guys in person every day,
Oh man,
what would that be like?
I don't know.
Actually, that's happened, hasn't it?
Well, it's yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've been in situations
were-
where I've had to see you guys like every day for 2 weeks straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just together for 2 weeks.
Well, I guess I
That's
came
what
through
we're saying too.
relatively
We're like, God, we have to
unscathed.
deal with Randall every day for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Man.
all of his insults and put downs and yeah.
I think when we're hanging out, we give as good as we get. So it's fair. It's totally fair.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, on the show we take it easy on you, Randall.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, we take it easy on you.
Okay, well, I appreciate that because I am a delicate fellow.
Yes.
You know how sensitive I am, and yeah, you know how easily I get my feelings hurt.
That's right.
Yeah, it's not too infrequent. Like after we get thrown with the show, I'll just go cry myself to sleep. Yeah.
Okay, so just going back to the question, Nebraska sand hills.
Oh,
you said
question.
they do,
Yeah, sorry. The sand hills. Oh, listen, man, those sand hills are interesting. Now, Brad has traversed the sand hills, what, twice?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Brad, what do you make of them?
They're sandy. And if you look at a map, I was just studying a map yesterday actually about them.
I know you're Corbin from The Fifth Element.
Yeah, that's it. Hi.
No, really, we've talked about this. Yeah, it looks like a lot of that material perhaps washed out of the Badlands up there in South Dakota. You can see where perhaps some of the water diverted, melting off the ice sheet, the Laurentide ice sheet, and headed west a little ways. A lot of it went right down the Mississippi Valley, but yeah, there could have been some headed west. You got to check the elevations, but with all that ice sitting there, you don't really trust elevations. They're same now that they were 15 or to 12,000 years ago, right? So a lot of that material washed out of to leave the South Dakota Badlands looking like they do.
Yeah.
The sand hills in Nebraska are just south of those. So I think that's a likely source for a lot of that debris that then got washed over, kind of like a sheet flood that we talk about in eastern Washington.
Just so everybody can see what we're talking about, look at this. Now, at present, is it affected by wind? Well, I think it is, but at the same time, it's pretty grown over. It's grassland, right?
Yeah, it's mostly grass.
So the grass is pretty much, these are not migrating dunes. Makes me think, because it's not desert, is it?
No.
Well, no, look,
they're pretty large too.
Yeah, let's see what the scale here is. I can do.
And there's actually, you said grasslands. There's like a grasslands or several grasslands parks or preserves or something out there. Yeah, north.
Yeah, I mean, look at this,
northwestern Nebraska.
Look, they're over 3 miles, and look, what have we got? We've basically got three ridges there. 4, like look at that. There's 3.5 miles. Yeah, so these things are huge, aren't they?
Oh, for sure.
They are huge. So
yeah, you drive the roads between them, and you can't really see over the next hill.
Mm-hmm. So let's see. Let's try putting this on. And really, okay, and they trend east-west. So typically the trend is going to be transverse or more or less at right angles to the flow. So it would suggest that the flow, like you said, came from the north. And
Let's
right here, look at this.
Right, that's the Badlands.
There's the Badlands right there. Look at this. I mean, looks to me like this has all been
Wow.
scalloped out. Material removed. And then you get down to here. And you've got all of this. So if this was water laid, where was that water ultimately going? Oh, well, here we go. Look at this. Right here.
North Platte.
The North Platte River. So, okay, so there you see the modern North Platte, and you can see it's underfit.
Oh,
look at the
wow,
size
look
of
at
the
that.
channel.
Yeah, you
big
can
time.
tell. You
Wow.
can tell by the farming,
The
right?
farming,
They're
yeah.
down in
Yeah.
the sub upland area.
They're in the sub upland.
Nice.
By golly, Kyle.
Attaboy.
All right. It's all right. It's gotta be the tinfoil hat.
He's
I'm
channeling. He's
I'm picking up
channeling
your
somebody
vibes.
who knows the answer.
The sub upland. Yes.
It's cheating.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to click it on 3D and see what we're looking at here. Ooh, look at this.
How wide is that?
Okay, let's find out. You can see there's an embankment right here. Or no, here's probably the wider embankment right here.
Mhm.
Right.
But I think what we're looking at here, look at this. This was water spread out over the whole region. But let me grab this again. We'll go from here. 15 miles there. 12 miles. So that's, yeah. Let's see here. Let's zoom in on the inner channel of the river. Let's see. Where's the damn river itself? God, is that the river there?
There's not much to it.
No, no. What do you think, Rush? You think that river cut this channel 15 miles wide?
Well, if you give it 15 million years, no, still no. It wouldn't be able
Still
to do it.
no.
Yeah.
Still
Okay,
no.
let's see how wide the inner channel is. Between half and 3/4 of a mile.
Yeah.
Somebody in the
1
chat
kilometer.
said this place is boring. I think that's what's great about what you do, Randall, is you make all of this stuff so interesting. So
That you mean,
we appreciate it. Yeah, looking at the
That's what
landscape
Mike
and
said.
learning from it, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Mike hated driving through there with me. He was there.
oh, I mean,
the
yeah. Oh, yeah.
first
To
time.
be there driving through. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's certainly, unless you know what's going on, that certainly can add a whole nother level of interest to it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sightseeing, yeah, it's probably pretty boring. It's not like heading into the Rocky Mountains.
No.
Yeah. And I'll throw this in there. This is
It's
out of
quite a few
order.
hours away.
This is out of order, but it's relevant to this. Happy Plague Doctor gave $5 and says, before men showed up, those dunes, it was largely open dunes, and they do migrate, he said.
They do migrate.
Yeah.
Okay. So then the question becomes, and that's what I was questioning. So there was no grasslands there then? At what point did the grasslands come in? Because my thought was that the Great Prairies were pretty, climax ecosystems of grasslands before humans came. I don't know specifically about the sand hills.
There might be a section, depending on where it is, that migrates, but I really would say that whole broad range, is not. They're not all moving.
Right.
There might be a small section that gets a channel of wind regularly, or maybe the caps. But yeah, they're pretty massive.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then
it's too bad. Well, you can't see well, maybe you could. With this map, I was looking at a topo map, the National Elevation Data Set, and yeah, just finding the rainwater lakes there, are just south of the Platte River.
the oriented lakes.
Yeah, the similar ones to the Carolina Bays, but facing the other way.
Mm-hmm.
They're south of the Platte River there.
Well, I could see, these floods coming down from the north. And yeah, I mean, you can see there's a lot of erosion up in here, that the distal flows laid this sand down, and did the initial shaping. And then to some extent, at this point, still undetermined, they would have been modified by wind. Of course, if it was desert, yeah, they would be constantly and slowly being modified by wind. But
Well,
I
told
don't
you
think
before,
the whole feature is not moving south, is it? I mean, it's been here.
well, last time I went across that 80, I told you guys it was windy like crazy, and I know that's fairly common across there. And
Oh,
it was,
yeah.
there were semi trucks ripped over and camper trailers blown over, and
Ooh.
a bunch of them. So it was bad. That was a serious fight to just keep in the highway, the Interstate 80 coming across there. So they do get regular strong winds.
Are they westerlies mostly?
Um,
I would
no,
north.
it was well, it was maybe following the direction that those dunes looked like they were flowing in.
So
To the
pretty much
southeast, southeast, yeah,
okay.
yeah, because it was cross runs on that highway. They weren't blowing in the face. I mean, partially, but yeah, it was southeast. But I was gonna just bring up there though the proximity of the Badlands there to then the
Yeah.
southern part of the Black Hills where the Hot Springs Mammoth site is.
Yeah.
Right, there's hot springs right there.
Right there. So that was a major archaeological site right there. You had this what, at least 15 or 18 animals, I think, have been found in there.
Oh,
Well,
man.
okay, interesting question. And we have speculated as to that and haven't come to any conclusions. There may be studies that would yield insight that I haven't read. But I think it could be explained through a combination of first fluvial followed by Aeolian.
All right.
And very likely related to the whether directly with the Younger Dryas boundary or not. I mean, because I think there was multiple episodes of gigantic sheet wash coming off the ice sheet. So could it have been one episode, several episodes that ultimately left that sand piled up there? I don't know, but it could have been. And I would be inclined to think it probably was multiple episodes of flooding. Although, when you back out here and you look at the Mississippi Valley, you can see where this constriction, you can see the constriction of the valley right here. Look at this. So here's the modern Mississippi, and here you can see the modern channel, or I mean the ancient channel that it's flowing in. But then when you get down here, look what happens. Let's see, let's get past there and back out. Look at what happens to that channel. But now you see you've got the Ohio coming in, and the Ohio is also carrying huge augmented discharges. Well, you can see right here, look, this would have been the ancient embankment right here, right? So you have, in fact, I've got studies showing that the high water was at least 200 feet above the modern floodplain of the Ohio. So you had that water coming down, you had this water coming down, and then south of there, I mean, look at the scale of the channel across here.
Wow. Oh man.
I mean, that's huge. Let's see. Let's go from Little Rock to Memphis. Over 100 miles wide.
Man.
So this was the.
Do you think there's any truth to like because I think don't they say that the river has migrated across this thing and
Oh yeah,
and they found
absolutely.
boats that were buried in sediment and stuff?
Yeah. So what it is you've got the initial gigantic meltwater flow. I would say it's probably moving relatively slowly because this is very low gradient. I mean, look, let's see right here. We're barely above sea level here. In fact, in some areas we're below sea level. So this is a natural place for the water to have really been moving relatively slow. So all of that sediment that's carrying from Canada and the northern United States is what's infilling the trough here. And so, yeah, it just makes sense that the modern river that's the leftover is going to easily be able to migrate east and west, back and forth, and meander over that flat, unconsolidated sediment.
Okay. So
because it's not until it was able to maybe, and look, here's the cutoff meanders. You can see right here. Look at how much this thing has been meandering around.
Wow.
Look at this.
Crazy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the Mississippi, it's been moving all over the place. But that movement of that little modern river did not create this channel.
Right.
And we know, I mean, there's many lines of evidence that, go to prove that there were the very, very large, because look, we were talking about the the Minnesota River Valley, right, which is this up here, right? Another example of an underfit river, meant one of dozens.
Slow down a little bit. It's a little.
There we go. I was trying to. I was hurrying.
Randall drives Google Earth like UFOs fly around. That's what I've been thinking.
Well, that's where I got my training.
Yeah.
So,
hold on.
No, but that's
okay.
that's interesting to see the extinct meanders, because you would almost think that that would be the shape of the larger channel as well, would be a more extinct.
Well, and it will be, but you got it. Part
if
of
if it were from that purpose, if it did actually come from that.
The scale and variant nature of fluvial phenomena would be evident, but what happens is when you get to that scale, your topographical features become more important. Like here, you basically got a flat floodplain, and a lot of it is unconsolidated sediment. So this is ideal for a river to meander over, because there's no confining embankments, there's no bedrock embankments or anything like that are going to keep it confined within a given constriction. So it's basically free to wander around. And look, you can go to almost any creek or river, and I always am encouraging people who find creeks that are near you and start, going and checking them out, and especially go after heavy rainfalls. The creek near where I live, South Fork Peachtree Creek, has gone through some pretty impressive changes in the couple of decades that I have regularly walked there. Two of the times, one was when Hurricane Ivan came through, and then about a decade later, it was 2000, I've forgotten now the exact years, but they were like, it's within a confined channel, and typically the modern creek will stay within that modern channel. But that modern channel is entrenched within a much larger flat floodplain that would have been an ancient flow, right? Now, a large modern flow, on two occasions that I have now aware of, the water rose up enough within the inner channel that it spread out over the floodplain up to 2 feet deep. And I've showed pictures oftentimes of the sand ripples left behind after the Hurricane Ivan flood, and how you could see the ripples, and then you could find high water marks on trees and buildings where you could measure and see that the water was right at 2 feet deep. Right. So it was spread out because of the floodplain, which of course now is used as a park. And that makes sense, because you don't want to build buildings and houses on a floodplain. But having a park with maybe tennis courts or a baseball diamonds and things like that, if there's a flood, it's not that big of a deal to restore it. Right. But so the whole floodplain of the creek is flat, and you can see a fresh layer of rippled sand, all kinds of places that had been deposited. Now, if you go up there now, you don't see that anymore. But if you dig down, you'll find sandy topsoil. And that sandy topsoil is from these two flood events that have happened within the last 20 or 25 years. But the point I'm getting at is, even within normal range of stuff, creek channels can actually change considerably. And yes, so you would accumulate over thousands of years. Yeah, you could accumulate some pretty significant changes. However, in a case like this, notice what I'm doing here. And I'm hovering over the floor of the channel, 800 feet. And then I'm going up here. And let's get up out of the channel. Wait a second here. Okay, let me check that out. Okay, 700 feet. Yeah, so the floor of the channel is 700 feet. And this is 750, so this is 50 feet higher. Over here is 813, so it's 100 feet higher. So basically, it would be a highly unusual flood right now. If the Minnesota River floods, it's going to be pretty much confined to this larger channel. So a large modern flood could submerge temporarily the larger channel, but then for it to come up out of the channel up here onto the uplands, that would be a really, really big flood. And that probably hasn't happened since the end of the Ice Age. So.
All right.
Yeah. And there's.
We got a bunch more questions. Should we tackle them?
Let's go for it.
Okay. This is an interesting
So, go ahead.
one. From
gonna
Robert Callis, $20, says, if you were given $1 million to build a monument or earthwork, what would it look like? What kind of features and or geometry would it have?
I love this question. Great
an
question.
earthwork? Oh.
A monument or earthwork, whatever.
Oh, a monument or an earthwork.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on where and what the purpose of it would be, you know.
Yeah, so you're given a bunch of money and they say build whatever you want, wherever you want, however you want. What would you do?
Oh, well, I would probably build a library.
Mm.
I think that's what I'd build a library. And that'd be the core of the thing, a core of knowledge. And then I would probably use, I really like octagons. So I might do an octagonal thing with wings coming off of it. And each of the wing could be dedicated to a different department of knowledge. And you could have 8 wings, right? And then, of course, that building would be oriented to the cardinal and ordinal directions. And it would be part of a plaza. You would have a plaza where you could put astronomical markers and basically create a larger plaza that could be rendered in any number of ways. You know, it could be some outdoor pavilions, it could be some gardening, it could be some pathways, but where you recreate the celestial geometry of that particular location on Earth, that the unique celestial geometry to that location on the Earth, so that someone coming and, you know, strolling through the garden is essentially, or walking through around the plaza or to the various outlying structures, could be mimicking the celestial motions above, which is how they did it in the olden days. So I would probably do something like that.
Better ask for 8 million.
What
Yeah,
materials would you?
What
I thought you
materials
never
would I
thought
use?
about it.
Oh, there's a good question. Now, who's asking that? Is that you,
As,
Kyle?
Yeah,
Asking
Kyle's
that
just
question.
expanding on the same question.
yeah.
The materials, well, I would probably use as much as possible natural materials, wood, earth, and stone.
Hempcrete.
Maybe, sure. Hempcrete. I'm anxious. I'm eager to try experimental building with hempcrete.
Oh man, don't
Yeah.
get those
Three
chats
chats
going
on
again.
here. Gonna build it out of weed.
Yeah, build it out of weed, man. Hey!
Here, I'm going to show this real quick before you start.
Oh,
Something
please,
else
Brad,
just
do.
to-
Please do.
Just to show you the map that I was looking at. I don't know if you've ever seen this one. Are you seeing this Nebraska here?
Oh,
yeah, look at
wow,
that.
look at that. Yeah.
Ah, Bradley's maps. Best
Map
in the
man
world,
Bradley.
folks.
You know, the little peanuts in there.
Now, you know, I mean, field studies could easily determine to what extent those dunes are migrating, if they are migrating.
Let's see, there's kind of a swale down here. You can see that in some of the other
Uh-huh.
other images. Yeah, so there's all kinds of fields of them. It's, you know, it's fully, you know, a third of the state.
Mm-hmm.
But then you can see those rainwater lakes down here.
Oh, there they are. Yeah, look at that.
Ellipsoids down here.
Look at that.
Oh, hey.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's south of the river.
Uh-huh. So
All
yeah,
right,
there.
so-
Look at there. You can zoom in. Look at the disparity of the ancient channel to the modern river.
Wow. Yeah. So the ellipsoids, you said, these little rainwater lakes. What do you think? Come on.
Who, me?
Yes, sir.
Well, I even after Tony's
Zamora.
Zamora, thank you, after Tony's theory, which I haven't rejected. I still am inclined towards a atmospheric and airburst phenomena.
Any tektites in the area? Maybe if I lived there, I'd be looking for tektites.
Yeah, man.
Just saying.
Or microspherules. That's the thing, you know.
Arrowheads.
And if it's aerial bursts, it's probably going to be microtectites, microspherules,
Mm.
and that's, you know, that's what I would think I would look for. So why don't you head on up there, Kyle, and get some samples for us?
Is that a big one?
Head on up. That's a good one.
Oh,
Hey.
That's weird. Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, and there's like a rim on it, isn't it? Almost. Yeah.
Who knows?
I don't know, man. I've gotten to the point where I'm pretty much curious now about every single
No doubt.
geomorphic feature on the planet.
All right. Well, we got more
Let's
comments,
see,
questions.
Let's go for
all,
it.
all the states, high resolution
Ooh.
in those
That.
things. Yeah, you can't even find these anymore.
That's
So
I know. I got we got
Dang,
those in the
Bradley.
file
Cloud.
too. Yeah.
good stuff.
What else does Bradley have in his?
Oh, it's holding out on those.
Runs with Scissors gave $5. No comment. Thank you. Be careful.
No comet.
No.
I
Aaron.
think do we know that person? I
Aaron
think we
gives
know that
$5.
person.
Says the moon now, please. Randall, I'm listening.
That's a whole bunch of Aaron pushing for
Well,
the moon.
I'll
Yeah,
say
Aaron
this,
pushes
and I
for
know
the
this
moon
is
every
going to
Can we
be
link the
frustrating.
moon to Halloween somehow? Let's wrap it up on that.
I know this is going to be frustrating to some people, but I have actually been talking about the moon more than people realize. I just haven't been saying that I'm talking about the moon. Does that make sense? I've been talking about the moon obliquely.
Sure. You're always talking about the moon. That was.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I'm always talking about the moon.
Yeah.
Everything I
answer.
say
Yeah.
has something to do with the moon. Although it's some things more than others.
Right.
Okay.
Sure.
Grant me that. Some things more than others. Yeah. I mean, everything I've been talking about really is the context for. See, otherwise, you have a lot of really weird, anomalous information that doesn't add up. But if you have a proper context or perspective, then you can look at all of that jumble of chaotic, weird stuff that doesn't quite add up into anything coherent and actually make sense out of it. But you have to have the context. So for the last 2 years, we have been establishing the context. Does that make sense?
It does.
I know
Yeah.
you understand what I'm saying, Ross.
They're paying close attention, which a lot of the people that are here definitely are.
Yeah, I think so. Okay.
But yeah, it's coming.
It's
It's coming. I know I'm see 2 years ago when we started this, I wasn't feeling that was impending. Because there were certain details that needed to be clarified first. Okay.
Sure.
Now 2 years in, yes, now I'm getting this overwhelming feeling of impending doom. No, of that we're getting closer. That the time is getting ripe for more disclosure. But you got to be careful. There are consequences when you start disclosing stuff. And no, it's not like some hidden Masonic thing. Well, it is in a way, but it's not a Masonic conspiracy because there's probably no Masons out there that really even realize what they're sitting on. But they're not the only ones. See, there are other streams of knowledge that have come down to us that confirm and support and complement. So you have to look at all of this. I've been stressing like the mythology end of it because we've shown that, there's a mythology of the deluge. Well, the deluge that is myths and stories and legends that come down to us through so many cultural venues can yield almost as much information and insight into this phenomena as looking at the modern scientific evidence. And then when you have both and you look at it from both perspectives, I think that's when you can get the holistic picture. And to me, the holistic picture is the only way to get the realistic picture. And so the memories that have come down to us through the stories and the epic tales and the myths and so on have not been given the credit that they deserve and the value and importance that they're going to play, the role that they're going to play in helping us understand this phenomenon.
All right. Okay, I think Kyle, this might be our buddy Kyle DeLille because it's Canadian.
Kyle Delisle.
Yeah.
Kyle.
$10. Says
Hey,
when does the Azores expedition kick off?
Woo!
Ooh.
When does the Azores? Well, I would think perhaps late 2023 or early 2024.
We're gonna have to make a recon trip before we take.
Yeah,
other
we're gonna
people
have to get
out
out
there.
there.
is the thing.
Yeah,
at least once
for
first.
sure.
Well, just we should have a bunch of people sign up for the recon trip.
Mm.
Well, that's an idea. The difference, of course, between a recon trip is you go with a small group of people. Everybody's kind of responsible for themselves. You don't have to provide food, transport. Well, to some extent, somebody has to do that. But since it's not this clear cut, you're buying a ticket and one person is a customer and one person is providing a service. That puts you into these different roles, right? Whereas a recon, we're all kind of equals. Everybody's going to have a duty and whatever that may be. So yeah, we would need to do a recon. So we should start seriously talking about that, I guess. Kyle, just maybe we could give you an assignment, Kyle, to start giving us weekly prompts. Start putting the pressure on.
Weekly
Sorry.
prompts.
Good luck.
Yeah,
with
weekly.
this crowd.
Yeah, and about on a weekly basis, send us an email, call us, something, just annoy us. Say, hey, when is that Azores trip going to happen?
All right.
Oh, shit.
There's a lot of things happening in the short run, though. That we got to get out of the way that we've sort of committed to, and then we'll circle back. We got our 2 weeks in the Great Floodlands out of the way.
Kyle knows how to contact us.
Yeah.
Not me. He's talking about Kyle DeLille.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the other Kyle.
Or maybe whatever Kyle it was.
Yeah, next year is pretty full already, right?
Yeah, see, that's the problem.
Cumberland.
Yeah.
March. End of March. Scablands
End
in
of
May.
March. Yeah.
Montana.
September.
September.
It's full. Yeah, and then we've got stuff with Ben. We got trips all year.
Cosmic Summit in June,
Yeah.
and we need to make a road trip to Serpent Mound after that because it's only a few days after the Cosmic Summit in Asheville.
Azores 2085.
Drive up to Ohio. Azores 25.
2085.
I just don't want that to fall off the radar screen.
No, it won't. We won't let it fall off.
No,
the
it shouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start pushing on that one.
It's high on a lot of people's lists.
Yeah.
But
as far as
certainly
I've heard.
doing an earthworks tour would be easier to pull off than an Azores tour and more affordable. And that's part of what we're running into right now is with the cost of gas and stuff and other things. We ran into that, those kinds of inflated expenses when we did the Scablands.
Yep.
Just recently, Would we spend double on gas as we did the previous trip? Like literally double.
Probably.
Yeah. So that's a part of it. So until the economy gets back on track, which it's not going to do until the present administration has been given the boot, those are going to have to be things we deal with. And good Lord, I hope the present administration gets the boot. Not to get off on politics, but I think we do have to clarify because wasn't there a comment somebody made a few weeks ago about they didn't realize Randall voted for Biden?
Yeah, people thought that from one of the live streams. I don't
remember specifically what it was, but you have to put it into context of sarcasm. If
that's
probably sarcastic remark.
Yeah.
In jest. What was Graham's comment about the Montana sense of humor?
Oh yeah,
people
Minnesota
just don't
sense
know
of humor.
Randall's subtle,
Oh.
dry presentation that he's actually totally sarcastic.
And he's compelled to ask trick questions. Remember that.
Oh, that was it.
Hey, this is a dead serious podcast. You guys can't be
no laughter.
doing sarcasm.
Right. We have to constantly keep the gravity of the situation in the forefront.
Right. You have to be
not the
serious.
levity.
That's right.
Yeah, you got to be dead serious.
Well, I would just be clear. I am a cinder in hell.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm dead.
That's okay. I finally get it. That's a great
That's great.
costume, Brad. He's burning in hell.
Yeah.
Okay. I get it.
Yeah, my costume is that I have a poltergeist in here, turning my lights on and off. So.
I guess you're the devil, Randall.
Yeah, Randall must be the
Oh, there you go.
Well, Laura, I
Your
remember
red
I told you I
shirt.
want to see you go goth for Halloween.
Yeah. Well, I've been there.
See, I knew that. I want to see it.
All right.
I'll put in a request.
All right. Maybe for the live stream.
There we go.
Well,
Who
Stedman,
was it?
we've got a bunch more stuff to go
Let's
through.
Let's
here.
go.
These
Let's go
questions.
for
Let's
it.
hear
man.
next question.
Stedman Rutherford, $10. Let's talk about the moon, Randall. Right now. I'm adding
Oh
some stuff.
boy.
Right now. Okay,
Now
the
you
moon.
can make this a line drive, Randall. Just
Yeah,
Come
you
on.
got 3
Okay,
minutes.
how
Just
about
knock it
this?
out of the park.
hit it, hole in one on this one. Come on.
Perigee to apogee. Moon's perigee is 221,000. Its apogee is 252,000 miles from Earth. How about that?
Good info.
Okay.
Yeah.
You just got a few more things, folks.
Hey, something about the moon.
Couple more
Start. There was
details.
something about the moon.
It was something. Yeah, that's what you asked for.
Kimberly,
And
$2. Thank you very
from-
much.
From that, we can calculate the eccentricity of the ellipse
Okay.
of the moon's elliptical orbit.
Oh.
So, yeah, I mean, okay, when we dive into the moon, we are going to dive into the moon. And I know that it's, again, one of those things that see, part of this is the time. Now, I've been waiting for, a month now for Artemis to finally get cleared for takeoff. And because
Yeah.
over the next few years,
Yeah.
we're actually going back to the moon. So I felt like the appropriate time, just like the fact that we're bringing our attention to with this new group that's been assigned to the 16-member team that is now going to be evaluating and analyzing UFO data for the next 9 months, suggests that within the popular zeitgeist, that there's an opening up that would make sense, that would be at that point for a knowledge drop. Because when you do these kinds of things, you have to have like a fertile ground for it to fall in. Otherwise, I've put a lot of this stuff out there before and nothing came of it. There was no, I've put some amazing stuff out in front of people before that actually should have picked up on what I was presenting, and it went right by. And that just tells me, okay, it's not the time yet. And then also acknowledging that, okay, there's still a few holes in my game, because some of this kind of stuff, you put it out there, it's going to upset some people. And so then I kind of look at it this way. If I was a UFC fighter and I was going to step into a major bout, I would want to make sure that I had filled all the holes in my game. And
Sure.
that's part of it. There are some holes and gaps in my game that I am working on. In other words, there are pieces missing from the puzzle and some very interesting questions that still are awaiting an answer. And, but since I've been working on this stuff for, 30 years now, I know a lot more than I did at one point. And in the very near future, I'm going to know even more, because what has happened is that within the last couple of years, I've gained access to a lot of information and data that I didn't have access to before. And I'm already seeing that some of that information and data is going to be very useful in addressing some of those questions that are going to be paramount in trying to put together this whole lunar scenario. But let me put it this way. There's a lot more to this moon story than most people realize. People take it for granted. They see it all the time. They just look at it out of the corner of their eye, and they never actually stop to think about what the moon is actually telling us about the state of our existence, right? So one of the things that the moon is like going, hey, you down there. Hey, all of you down there. I'm doing something. I'm misbehaving. I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing. In fact, I'm disobeying the laws of physics. This is like a conundrum that you need to pay attention to and try to figure out. And if you figure it out, boom, some doors are going to open, some gates are going to open, the floodgates, in fact, are going to open. And what could then happen is suddenly the veil separating our modern incarnation of history from the 250,000 years of deep lost history, those gates will be blown wide open, and suddenly we'll peer deeply into this lost world. And that's going to be very disorienting for a lot of people. And it's also a part of how many people are ready for that kind of a thing. See, so right now we're in a situation where, there's serious attention getting turned over to the UFO phenomena and admitting, well, unidentified aerial phenomena, right? There's stuff there that we don't have explanations for. So if you're in the government, you go, yeah, I know a lot of that stuff that people are reporting is experimental aircraft. If you're a geophysicist, you're probably going, I bet a lot of that, or I know that a lot of that stuff people are reporting is basically just anomalous effects of geophysical changes in the pressures within the plates, the mineral composition, the movement of subterranean tides, and all of this stuff that can focus energy effects, particularly along fissures and fault lines, especially fault lines, because if you have a lot of quartz in the bedrock and you have fault lines moving with one another, well, you know what happens there, don't you, Russ? Quartz under pressure and stress.
Yeah. Piezoelectricity.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm
there's
protected
that.
from that.
And what?
I'm protected from it.
I know. That's why I brought it up, because I thought people should appreciate the fact that you are now insulating yourself from the effects of piezoelectric. So anyhow, then there's the third element. Are we seeing expressions? Are we seeing examples of technology we don't understand, or technology beyond our own level of technological and scientific development? Is that what we're seeing? What do you think, Russ? You've had some conversations with some pretty heavy UFO researchers. Is there a consensus? Are we talking about visitors from other stars?
That depends on who you talk to.
Why would some entities, some intelligent entities from other star systems be so damn interested in what's going on over here on Earth that they're constantly showing up in our skies? And
I think the idea is they've been here a long time. Whether they're from another star is a different question.
Oh, okay.
Certainly no consensus.
Yeah.
So they're not Pleiadians? I got a book on my shelf up there that somebody gave me. It's called the Pleiadian Workbook.
Yeah.
I guess there's a lot of different opinions about where do they say the grays are supposed to be coming from?
Zeta Reticuli.
Is it really Zeta Reticuli? No,
probably.
I don't think so.
Those are the ant.
I don't think that's it.
The ant.
Okay.
The ant people are the Zetas. That's the Zetas.
But let me put it this way: some of these questions are, they're. I want to look. I'm itching to, but I realize that when I do this, I got to be ready for the blowback. I don't know if I'm ready for the blowback.
Sure.
Yet.
Yeah. Oh well.
Give me another 6 months though. I think I'll be ready. I'm getting close. I know I'm ready. Just like I've been training and learning and filling those gaps, the holes in my game, and I think I'm getting close.
The team is expanding.
Well, that's great.
Yep. And I will say this. I mean, I've shared a little bit with you, particularly Russ. I've come into a whole lot of new information.
That's
game-changing information. And I'm trying to understand how to integrate this in to everything else. And this is going to take a little processing time.
Yeah.
It's not something I can do in a week or two. It's going to take a few months of thinking, prodding, grasping some new concepts.
Understanding. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And I mean, you've seen enough to know what I'm talking about.
Right.
So,
that was a pretty good teaser.
Really, he's at it again.
Well, we're out of time.
He teased it last time.
Yeah. So I just want to mention Old Boy, $10.
Oh boy.
W Decker, $5. T Gear, another $20. Hack a Gibson, $5. Kimberly, $20. Caustic Chameleon, $5. English Constitution Party, 10 pounds.
Wow.
Thank
BF
you, people.
Booby, $5. Happy Plague Doctor, $10. TRV Gamer, $5. James, $10. Happy Plague Doctor, another $5. Mark Base, $5. James, 10. Happy Plague Doctor, another $5 and 10. And Jeff, $6.66. Jeff, the curator.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Plague
There's a
Doctor gave another
200 in there.
$5. Richard Howes, $50.
Richard Howe, that's an old friend of mine. Richard, yeah.
Sir,
Richard, you and I, well, in fact, I have a feeling that's Richard making me feel guilty.
Good
was
job,
it Richard that asked about the moon?
No, let's see. What is Richard saying here? Yeah, to the moon, Randall. To the moon. That's.
I knew it. Richard, I tell you what, Richard, you're going to be the first. You are going to be the first, okay? But
Sir,
I hope my excuses, I hope they counted for something. Because
sure.
they were offered with sincerity.
Okay. Sincere excuses.
They were sincere excuses.
Sir
Yeah.
Asopus Jopus Millie Enlil Prometheon gave 200 pesos. Thank you. Andrew, $10. Shibaka Wookie, $2.79. And that's all. Oh, an X-Wing XRP5, $2. Says thanks, Legends. Thank you guys all so much. I'm sorry we can't always answer all the questions. They stack up. We do them in order, but we really appreciate you guys donating. It helps us out a lot. And
Thanks.
one more time, we'll mention the live stream is coming up this weekend, the Halloween live stream. You can sign up to YouTube, HowTube, make an account there. You can watch it, $18.
And you make that account on HowTube, and that's going to give you access to a whole lot more stuff.
That's right. A lot more stuff.
A lot of times you get the podcast early. Last one came out a week early.
That's right.
The other next one's about to come out a week early for those people that have an HowTube account, and no commercials there yet.
There you go.
That's something maybe if people want to give us feedback. Here there's an upside and a downside. We like doing it without commercials. Although we promoted the CBD from the gods because it's been great. We've been all enjoying it and using it and so on. We have some other possibilities for some advertising. Now the downside is, of course, then there's some advertising. But if we are very prudent about who we go with, I've already told Mike Robertson that. Who happens to be the CEO of HowTube, that I'm only interested in advertising if it's something we use or a product or a service that we use or believe in, and so on. But the upside is if it gives us more revenue, that means we can do more. And the more revenue we have, the more access to resources we have, the more awesome this thing is going to get. That's a promise.
That's right.
True.
Yeah.
All right,
So-
guys.
I really like the moon bell joke. I don't know who made it, but more moon bell. That was a good one.
More
And shout out to Shockwave. I'm wearing my Electric Universe hat right now.
Shockwave is back, Mr. All Capitals.
Rock and roll, bro.
Okay. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thanks, y'all.
Good night.
Good night.
I'm burning.